We always like to assume that humans are the most dominant species on Earth. Well, how exactly does one define that? If it has to do with population size, we're not even cracking the top 50. Longevity? We're not even close to being one of the oldest species on Earth, and in all likelihood there will be other species that survive after we perish. If we're going by predatory effectiveness, let us remind you that a simple virus or bacteria can wipe out large portions of our population at once. As we start to remove this anthropomorphic filter, our relationship with the organisms around us becomes more clear. We can start to see how we actually do not dictate the world, and rather there are organisms within us and around us that control our processes and behaviors. In this video, we'll be taking a risk and looking at the human-fungal relationship from the perspective of fungi and attempting to make the case that fungi are farming people for their own benefit. Let us explain. Humans have been farming for thousands of years. We've relied on our relationship with plant organisms to create sustenance, feed our population, and ultimately thrive as a species. Without our ability to dictate, propagate, and control plant life, the population of the world would be much thinner than it is today. The existence of those plants, such as American sweet corn, bok choy, or long-grain rice, exist primarily because of humans, are maintained by humans, and ultimately feed humans. We are present at all life stages of a farmed organism, and they would have no chance of survival without us. Is it possible that there is an organism that humans rely on in the same way that corn species rely on humans? We believe the answer could be fungi. It sounds crazy, but the more you look, the more you realize that it could be true. How is this possible? Well, the first question we need to ask is, could humans live without the presence of fungi? Thousands of rows of sweet corn could not exist if not for humans present to maintain them, feed them nutrients, eliminate pests, and protect them. Fungi do many of the same things for humans. Our microbiome, for example, is a collection of bacteria, fungi, and other microbes that we have evolved with for millions of years. They're critical to digestion, immune support, and so much more. Simply put, fungi is embedded in human biology. Without even considering the antibiotics, food, and sustenance that we get from fungi, we can look at human biology and say confidently that we could not exist without its presence. To be the master of another organism, you must have the ability to destroy it too. Humans can also decide to destroy a crop like corn against the will of that organism. Can fungi do the same? Apparently, the answer is yes. Despite all of humankind's immense technology and scientific innovation, people die every single day from fungal diseases that we simply cannot control. That fungi is literally using your body, brain, digestive tract, or skin as its fuel source and eating you away until your systems can no longer function properly. Fungi can germinate in your body and essentially harvest nutrients from you. You may be thinking, how can fungi be farming us if it cannot grow us? I think that is a sheer misunderstanding of how fungi feeds. Rather than seeking living organisms like humans do, saprophytic fungi seek dead or decaying organisms and matter. Thus, killing a human and creating a fuel source is as effective to some fungus as growing corn is for humans. Now, in order for fungi to be able to farm humans, fungi must have both an intention and a method, which would imply intelligence. Is it possible that fungi are intelligent enough to use humans as a vector for its existence? In our opinion, fungi are highly intelligent, and there is a lot of evidence to back that up. Not only does the mycelial network mirror the structure of the neural network and internet network, but fungi must make complex decisions, run through cost-benefit analysis, take risk, and navigate terrain in every second of its existence. Electrical communication within the organism dictates its actions, no different than the electrical currents between neurons in your brain. While we may never know the extent of which this is true, there is little argument against fungi having its own immense form of intelligence. So, we already know that humans cannot survive without fungi, are often at its mercy, and that it has some form of intelligence which has allowed it to exist on Earth for far longer than our species. However, we can't discuss farming without discussing the obvious element of consumption. Humans, for example, grow potatoes so that we can fuel our daily lives. We eat their leaves when they are growing, their roots when they mature, and feed off of them as much as we can until they die. Fungi have a very similar relationship with humans. Fungi are gaining nutrients from your existence as you grow, feeding off of your waste products, and will consume you once again when you die. No matter whether a human is buried in the ground, cremated, or left in a river, the organic matter from that human will be consumed by a plethora of different fungi. There is truly no escape from the appetite of the fungal kingdom, if you will. Finally, let's talk about sheer dependency. In farming, there is a clear hierarchy of who need who. Fungi does not need human existence to flourish. There are millions of other organisms and forms of decaying matter that fungi could use as its fuel source. While we unquestionably create more fuel for fungi, we are not its primary source. However, remove fungi from the equation of human food production, and there would simply be no food. We rely on fungi in our soil to create fertile grounds for plants, we rely on their mycorrhizal relationships with plants in order for them to grow, and we rely on their decomposing abilities to recycle our waste. Remove fungi from that equation and our agricultural processes simply do not work at the scale they do today, or at all. With this perspective, who really needs who? Corn needs humans and cannot survive with us, but humans can survive without corn. Humans need fungi and we cannot survive without it, but fungi can survive without us. It almost seems as if our existence is dictated by fungi, ultimately benefiting it at every stage of our existence, from the second we are born to many months after our death. Obviously, it is without question that humans can also farm fungi. This throws a bit of a stake in our argument until you realize that our farming is actually benefiting fungal species to an incredible extent. The goal of a mushroom is to spread spores and reproduce. Mushrooms have come up with all sorts of incredible strategies to spread spores far and wide. For example, a cordyceps mushroom will germinate inside of an ant and essentially control its mind to make it wander up a tree canopy, where the fungus will then kill the ant, grow a mushroom, and release spores so that the wind currents take the spores further than if they were on the ground. Fungi is essentially using our food consumption methodology to expand its own populations, spreading its spores into ranges that were previously impossible. Let's take the reishi mushroom for example. This mushroom has existed in the wild for a very long time, limited to its native ranges. Now, however, farming of the reishi species in places like California, China, or Norway have introduced it into areas that it may have never reached. Its population is larger than ever before, and there are more reishi spores germinating today than even 10 years ago. Just like how fungus controls the mind of an ant to expand its range, mushrooms have nestled their way into the human psyche, benefiting them more than they benefit us. While we'll never know the true intention of fungi, there's no question that every step of our life is dictated by it to a sharp degree, and thus one could argue that fungi is using us for its own benefit, both intentionally and passively, so that it can feed its populations and outcompete its evolutionary competition. We realize that these thoughts are controversial and quite philosophical. So, we invite you to share your thoughts in the comments and contribute to the conversation.